And welcome to another edition of Daily Drinkers Podcast. We took a week off due to conflicting schedules last week, but now we are back on track. My name is Rocky. I am drinking High West Whiskey American Prairie Bourbon. I picked it up at Twin Liquors out here, which is very similar to a Bevmo or any other alcoholic place. So I have it in a highball glass with 2 ice cubes and a splash of water.
Ah, very nice. I am Marbles, who's here every week with Rocky, because we're the only two reliable ones, apparently. I am drinking, as you can guess, a Guinness
Guinness.
Nitro cold brew coffee, because they're my favorite. So smooth. And I'm also drinking Lagavulin, the Nick Offerman special that I had probably like quite a few weeks ago. And I got this very fancy Stormtrooper decanter that
Shiny.
that the lovely Rocky sent me, and it also came with some
The
glasses.
Stormtrooper
This is hard to
glasses
see.
are really cool.
Yeah, it's like this weird like inset, like it's like hollow in here, but it's like yeah, it's like floating in the glass, and then there's like a really wide rim. So you should easily be able to pour your whiskey in without making a mess.
I saw it and couldn't help but think this belongs at Marvel's house.
Luckily, I
As if
had
you couldn't tell from all the Star Wars
a
memorabilia right behind him.
all of that stuff. Um, yeah, I'm actually lucky. I had my little funnel from my flask, and I found it in the liquor cabinet, and I'm like, I need that because this neck of this bottle is very small, and I'm like,
Sure.
this is smaller than the bottle of the actual whiskey bottle itself. Um, so I should get a funnel, and luckily that worked.
Funnels come in handy.
Also, I've over here, which I kept forgetting to bring out, some Hubbard's apple brandy.
Apple brandy.
This was picked up for me in Michigan. Is 60% alcohol by volume, 120 proof. Um,
That sounds
this
pretty good.
it is very 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 uh strong alcohol taste. It does taste a little fruity, I guess. But it's mostly very alcoholy.
That would probably be good in like a Brandy Alexander kind of drink
Yeah,
where
I
you
don't
get the
know.
fruit notes.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with it because I can't. Like, it's not something. I mean, I can take a couple sips from like a shot glass, but it's it just evaporates when it hits the back of your throat. It is not. I don't think it's made for just drinking neat.
No, not at all.
Um,
You can basically swip out most whiskey drinks, even like a Cosmo or a Manhattan, and you put brandy instead. That would make it like a Metropolitan, I believe.
okay. Yeah, I've never tried to make anything with brandy. Actually, I've never had brandy until that, I think. I don't think I know anybody who drinks brandy.
This would be good. Hear me out. Sounds a little crazy, but 2 ounces of brandy, half ounce of orange curacao,
Okay.
uh, bitters, and a lemon peel. Kind of just sounds like a refreshing brandy spritzer.
Okay. I have all but one of those ingredients. Um,
I don't even know what half this stuff is.
yeah, I don't
There we go. The Brandy Alexander, another good dessert cocktail.
Let's see.
Sidecar.
Our
It's like it's a lemony spin on a cocktail, but they put brandy in that. You can do it with your apple brandy.
true. I've had a sidecar before, but I don't know if I had it with brandy. I want to say they put whiskey in it. I don't know. Maybe they did use brandy. I mean, it kind of just doesn't really. At least the recipe I'm looking at, 1.5 ounce of cognac, orange liqueur, such as Cointreau, uh, orange, lemon juice, and sugar, the rim.
Ah, I've got one
So,
for you, sir. It's called
yeah.
a brandy cobbler. It's 3 ounces of brandy, simple syrup, and club soda. So essentially, it's like a vodka soda, but with brandy. And then you can
Yeah.
put your own fruit mash. So if you're going to go with a pungent apple, you can get like a Granny Smith. If you want to get really crazy, kind of muddle that in the bottom, or just make like a sangria with it.
Yeah, but I feel like sangria's not. I feel like sangria, I'd rather make it with like a cheaper alcohol since you're putting a bunch of fruit and stuff in it than using that stuff, which I can't really get more of unless I want to drive to uh, the Midwest.
Or you can make some mulled wine,
I can make
basically
an.
warm brandy and red wine.
Apparently, you can make a brandy old fashioned. Apple brandy, a dash of simple syrup, a dash of bitters, orange twist, and a ice cube. You could do an Applejack rabbit.
So the
Um,
possibilities are endless.
well, this one says Laird's bonded apple brandy, but lemon and orange juices, maple syrup. There's also a version that adds more lemon juice to the mix than the original. A brandy, yeah, sangri. Comes from the West Indies. Oh, so yeah, it's just. Oh, it also has port wine in it. Jeez. So you could put water, sugar, spice, and a wine or spirit. This one has everything in it plus port wine. I don't drink port wine, so I would have to get port wine to do that. Calvados sidecar, forbidden apple, a Jack Rose. All these are very fancy. Ooh, stone fence. Uh, it's apple brandy, apple cider, bitters, and if blended applejack appeals to you for whiskey-like characteristics, yeah, okay. So brandy, apple cider, and bitters.
This
Okay,
sounds like it would taste potent.
that sounds like it would taste very appley. It would taste a lot like apples.
Mm-hmm.
Um. Oh, and then we were talking before we started recording about microphones. Um. Yeah, the two brands I was looking at were Blue microphones, so either like uh I guess a Yeti maybe. Um like the Nano is really small, but yeah, maybe like a Yeti, maybe a Yeti X, but or like the Wave 1 or Wave 3 from Elgato.
Interesting.
Um
I can add it to my Amazon hit list of things I'm probably not going to ever get, but let me keep looking.
so I figure those are good. I think those are both I think they're just both, yeah, USB-C mics. Um Pretty sure the Yeti and the Yeti. I don't know if the Yeti X is. I don't want to get one of those. What are they called? Like XLR microphones, the high-end audio
Mhm.
ones, because then you need like a mixer, because that plugs into a mixer.
And then you got to have a whole setup and a half just to do a simple show.
Yeah, you have a bunch of wires everywhere. Having just a USB one makes it way easier. Plus you could do a little bit of like changing your sound a little bit with these, with like the software on the computer or the controls on the microphones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd want something cardioid, so it's directional, like in front, like you have to be in front of it. It doesn't pick up sounds from everywhere else. Yeah, so I was looking into stuff like that. I was also looking into if I got like a mic arm, so that way I can just move it like off behind the monitor, and then when I'm using it, I can just move it, swing it around, and move it in front. I don't know if it was Elgato. One of them was made in a mic arm that actually is like low profile, so it sits like basically along your desk, and it's supposed to come up from like under your monitors instead of hanging over. I thought
Interesting.
I thought that was kind of cool. Um, so that way I could use headphones just to listen, and then use a separate mic to actually, um, you know, speak. So it sounds better. Oh yeah, it is Elgato that makes the mic arm like LP. So I don't know.
Mic arm LP.
Yeah. So I could stick that back here in the corner, and it would run under my monitors up like to above my keyboard. And then I can just swing it underneath when I don't want it anymore. Or bring it from the side, either or. It just clamps onto your desk. But I was only thinking of that because I actually have a stationary desk. But I would probably get a mic arm. Yeah, that one's out of stock, and it's $100.
That was my other idea of maybe moving my game room around and getting like a little desk setup in there and actually have like a station set up.
Yeah, you could, a spot for your laptop and any other peripherals.
So many decisions to make.
hmm Um, yeah, but I just haven't wanted to spend money on a mic.
And then I think if I'm gonna spend money, I might as well just spend money on getting an Xbox new headset. Because I do Xbox a lot more.
True. Go with what you
Go with my strong points.
well, like what you go with what your what you use most,
And I'm
comparatively.
still kicking around the idea of that Xbox wireless headset that they had.
Yeah, there's that one. There is the one that Microsoft makes. Which I heard is pretty good for what it is. It's not full over the ears, so I don't know if you
That's the
find
one
those
thing.
uncomfortable or not, but
That's the one thing I'm not. But it's tailored to the new Xbox series, so there's less compatibility issues. Which
yeah, there is that. Although, like I said, I do like my SteelSeries Xbox headset. But I think the Microsoft one is a good alternative to buying Astros or SteelSeries. I don't think I would get a Turtle Beach again, just because I don't know. I felt like
when they first came out, they were great. I
they
love
were
my Turtle Beaches.
they were great, and then I feel like they just weren't as good, and they felt cheaper. Like just too plasticky and flexy, and I don't know, not as good. Definitely prefer the SteelSeries ones. They fit great. They feel more comfortable. They don't creak and crack as much as the Turtle Beaches did. I thought about getting Astros, but I just didn't want to spend that much on a pair. I felt like it was a lot.
That's how I feel about most of these headsets nowadays. I'm like, Jesus, $300.
Yeah.
And then you look at
Yep.
other options, like, okay, I'll gamble that. And then you're like, oh, these are garbage.
And some of the decent ones, they're cheaper. It's like, oh, that's cool, except it's wired. And I don't want, like, my big thing is I don't want just a bunch of wires. And I hated when I had Turtle Beaches that were wired into my controller. I hated forgetting that and then get like moving too much or getting up and my controller goes flying.
Mm-hmm.
Because I jerk my head this direction and my controller gets yanked, or I just got tired of dealing with it. So for me, it has to be wireless all the way. I can't go with wired headsets anymore.
Razer makes an Xbox headset.
I believe Razer does. Why can't I use this site?
What I really want is Xbox to come out with Bluetooth compatibility so I can just match my normal nonsense.
That would have been nice if they just came out with straight Bluetooth, but I mean, maybe they didn't because they felt that it would too much interference. I don't know. They just want to use their proprietary one.
It's all a numbers game.
Yeah. There are some headsets that are compatible with PCs and Xbox.
That was the other thing I was thinking too. I can just get one of those headsets, use it interchangeable for the podcast, for Xbox. And that way I can feel justified spending that amount of money on something that like that.
Yeah, are the Razer ones both?
It
'Cause I
says that they are.
the SteelSeries ones I have are, but I decided to get dedicated ones for the PC because I didn't want it because I had too many things in this room using Bluetooth. And also every time I turn on the headset to connect to my Bluetooth on my PC, it would turn on my Xbox.
So supposedly
So that's why I didn't.
The Razer Kiara wireless gaming headset does team up with Xbox.
Okay. Kiara Pro for Xbox. I mean, the best thing I would do, the controls are on the back, yeah, would be Xbox wireless and Bluetooth. The best thing I would do would be like pick like 2 or 3 brands and then just watch reviews on them, like just YouTube reviews of people like unpacking it, listening to it, you know, saying how it feels, if they fit your head, if they fit, awkwardly or not. That's kind of what I did. And like the Astros were always good, but they just cost way more, and the SteelSeries were a little cheaper, and they were still considered really good. I don't remember if I even looked up the Razer ones when I was looking, or when these even actually came out. I don't remember. But
I got no quarrel spending 100, 150 bucks. When I start getting like $200 or $300 for a controller or for a headset, I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, it depends on like how long you expect to use it for, and um, a number of other things. There's a bunch of factors that go into that. What? Uh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Did you
Did
lose all audio?
no, I can hear. I don't know if it's recording still or if it stopped.
Lovely.
The time on it stopped, but I think OBS crashed? I don't know. Hmm. Hmm.
This will be an interesting show.
Nope, nope. It's still going. It just like froze. Okay. Um, okay. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Uh, the counter stopped, but all the audio and the picture kept going. So now the counter just like started back up, but it jumped ahead. So I think it just froze. I don't
It
know.
just said, I'm having a meltdown. Good luck.
I don't know. It didn't say it crashed, so we'll see. Um, yeah. No, for Xbox, like putting an actual, 150 bucks in a decent headset that's gonna last you for the length of the console, it's not a bad idea.
So you can be connected to multiple things on it at the same time too.
Yeah. Usually
That's
it's like two
interesting.
things. It's like usually it's because of the Xbox is using a dedicated
Hmm.
signal. You can connect to that and a Bluetooth device. Usually like one other device. So you could have it connected to your laptop or your phone, and you can get audio from your phone and the Xbox at once. That kind of thing.
It also has a 5 gigahertz wireless frequency. Interesting.
Um, yeah, I mean that's probably just so it's better audio. Um, let me think. It's Bluetooth for which one? The Razer one?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's got Bluetooth 5.0. What's the charging port on it though?
it's a USB-C.
That's good. Unfortunately, the Steel series that I have are micro USB, so
Well,
it's okay. It's not bad. I just wish that it was all just one cable, one USB-C cable. Um, that'd be great. Yeah, I would just look up like a video for this one and for something else, either the ones I have or the Astro ones that I think Dink has. But the Astro ones are probably going to be more expensive.
I'll go ahead and add these to my Amazon list.
Although I do have a bunch of Razer stuff. So, dude, I just bought my keyboard came with a little like fake leather kind of like wrist pad rest, right? But they just came out with a new one that actually has like a cooling gel on the inside.
Interesting.
So you don't so your hands and your wrist don't get all sweaty when like typing and stuff because it cools it down a bit. And I have to say, like, it does feel cool. So it does feel good when I have my hands and I'm typing. I feel like my hands aren't as hot and sweaty. But yeah, I would definitely get like a headset that also does Bluetooth because why not?
Kill two birds, one stone.
Yeah, there's a big benefit to that. Oh man, this week has already been too much.
That was me last week. I was donezoed by Wednesday of last week.
Yeah, no, I was too. There was just too much stuff going on. Um, yeah, and this week has been hectic too. Uh, we do work in sprints, and it's right now it's during the um, they're trying to get everything to go to like live, well, tomorrow, but we're barely we're uh the work is technically done. So for development, every company and like kind of process is like different, but most development, like programming and um, just different kinds of development, usually you put your code on different uh, environments. So we do our work on a local environment. And then when we're done with the work and it gets checked and it's passed as, hey, this is what we asked for and this is what we got and this is correct and whatever, you go to the next environment. Then
Okay.
that gets like tested. It also code from the other local environments gets merged into it. So it's a way of like testing to make sure everyone's stuff still works once they combine it all. Um, then that's that. We have a QA environment. Then we go to a staging environment, which has more up to date like data. So a lot of the data that's in the QA environment is might be outdated, like from the services and things that we have where we store data. Those tables and repositories, those databases aren't always kept. Every once in a while they're synced up, but they're not kept up to date because it's kind of a testing environment. So it doesn't really matter if the data is correct or not. It just as long as there's something there to show up, to test that things
Okay.
are working, that's what it's for. So then you go to staging where data is more up to date, so you can actually see some correct stuff. And then after that, it goes to production, a production environment, which is like it's live and it has all the most up to date data and everything is supposed to be correct. So we goes we do a sprint. We're doing about a sprint every month. Um, so you have a bunch of tickets, a bunch of tasks to do. You get it all done, and then by the end of the month, you're supposed to be going live. Usually, we try to do it like on a Thursday, Tuesday or Thursday, but lately it's just been Thursdays. Well, things have been not when things don't go very smoothly. Stuff gets dragged out. There'll be a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of changes that get made late in the game, and so it takes forever to get to the QA environment where all the work is done. Well, they barely went to the staging environment last night and it has to go to the production environment tomorrow. So they basically spent all day today trying to make sure everything that got pushed to the staging environment still works. um, and of course, there are some things where they're like, "Hey, let's make changes," and of course, my manager hates that because you have to push everything as a bulk. So if one ticket, let's say, has to make changes, you can't push everything until that ticket's done. And then it's just a whole process of having to, so many eyes and people need to be talked to get one thing done. It takes forever. And when things have to go live tomorrow, they don't like to be making changes today because it should have been in staging like last week.
So they're just
And
hoping that everything lined up fine.
so
So
there's just a lot of people end up working late nights, like the QA people and some of the management is up late trying to basically verify that everything is correct on all of these tickets that all these people are working on. And then tomorrow, it's probably not going to go in the morning. It's probably going to go later. they'll push everything to production and then go through testing everything again to make sure that it went to production correctly. So now that we have a different process for doing that, I'm not in charge of that stuff, because before, on the old website, the actual developers had power over pushing their individual stuff to production. And it was a lot more chaotic when you had a bunch of developers pushing their own stuff to every environment themselves, while everyone else is doing that too. So sometimes we'd have to talk to each other and be like, hey, I'm pushing, 6
I'm doing
files to staging. Don't push anything right now because your thing's gonna fail. Like it can only do so much at once. Now we do things in a bulk, and me and my coworkers aren't responsible for doing those deployments to each environment. So when this stuff is happening, all we really do is either we're working on stuff for the next sprint, for the next month, or we're sitting around waiting to double check our work when it goes to the other environment. They like to, because we're the ones who originally did it, because we're at the bottom.
Yeah.
And there's other developers that work on a different layer after us, so we pass our work to them. So since we know firsthand what exactly it's supposed to do, when it goes to an environment, they like to have us go back and say, hey, this is on QA. Can you check it and make sure it's working as you expected it to? Hey, this is on staging. Can you check to make sure it's still working correctly? Hey, this is on production. Can you make sure it's still working correctly? So it has to get QA'd by a lot, not just the QA people, but like everyone who's touched it has to go and say, yeah, it looks fine.
This
Yeah,
works. This works. This
that
works.
works
This works.
correctly. Occasionally there'll be a mess up and something won't be working, and they'll be like, yeah, I don't see it. And it could be a caching issue, like, oh, that server's cached, and for some reason it's not updating to the latest code that we pushed. Sometimes it's like, hey, this service stopped working on that environment, but it worked on this environment. So the code doesn't work because it's expecting something that doesn't exist. So that stuff does happen, but to be honest, most of the time it's has nothing for me to fix. I guess it just means I'm good at what I do.
Just do it once and it's good to go.
I like to do things once and not have to worry about it. It sucks when that doesn't happen. And you do something once and then they tell you to change it 100 times. And then they ask you, why is this taking so long? And then you have to try to not tell them it's because you keep changing your mind.
So that's the difference in our
That's why
jobs.
it's taking so long.
My job, nothing ever goes to plan.
It would be like someone goes, for you to bring their car in to get like brakes changed, right? And they say, how long is it gonna take? And you say, oh, you can come back tomorrow. You're like, we got some cars that we got to work on, and you can come back tomorrow and pick it up. Okay. And then, they call you at like 5:00 and they say, hey, can you also change the oil? And you're like, well, yeah, I could do that too. But it won't be ready in the morning. It'll be ready in the afternoon. Well, why can't it be ready in the morning? Because you asked me to do something else. Okay. And then you go, you do the oil change, you change out their brakes, and then they show up and they're like, oh, hey, can you also flush the transmission out?
900% of my day. That is
And then
900% of what happens.
Can you also flush out the transmission? Also, can I have it done in an hour? No.
Yeah, but I've actually had this exact conversation with a customer earlier.
Well, why
today.
not? It's like, cause it takes a while.
Comes in for an oil change and a tire rotate. Cool, 2 hours. Okay. Hey, I also want to do this, and this. I want to get an estimate for it all. So when do you think my car will be done? Okay, give me 2 hours. I'll get the estimates together, and then from there we'll team up with what you need.
Yeah.
Get the estimate together. Cool. all right, well, I need to get my car at 2 o'clock, but I want all this other stuff done.
Yep.
Well, I know that's not going to happen. You know that's not going to happen. So here's what we're going to do instead. And he's like, okay, cool. And then an hour later,
Hmm.
so can I head down to pick up my car? No, bro, I told you. It's not going to be ready
Yeah,
till 2 o'clock.
I've had the same thing happen, but with code and like a dozen people. And that has to like it pass through, like or half a dozen people that it has to go through. It's like it's not no, it's not gonna happen. No, it's just not gonna happen. Well, why not? Can I? Can we just have it done now? No, it's not how it works. Um, the best is when they tell you to do something and you do it, and then they tell you to change it like 6 times,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, why couldn't you decide this the first time that that's what you wanted? It'd be like if they told you to do an oil change, but every time you did the oil change, they tell you to use a different brand of oil and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And you're
Can
like,
we?
but it's like, why? It's like, just pick one and stick with it. Why are you telling me to change it after I've done it? And then
But
expect me to still be done at the same time? It's like,
the
no.
beautiful part about my side is yeah, you want me to change your oil 17 times one day? Cool. You're going to be paying me 20 times because I had to do it 17 times. So if you want to keep paying me, I got no problem. I'm going to run
Yeah.
this tab up. I'm
See,
going to
and
be like a bartender.
that doesn't work for me because I also get like a deadline and they're like, well, this still has to be done by Tuesday. It's like, yeah, but you keep changing it, so it keeps dragging out how long it's going to be done for. I would have been done last week had I done it once, maybe twice. But now that we're on, change number 6 and it took days for you to get back to me with it, it's not going to be done by Tuesday. That's just not how it works. Um, and I can't charge you extra for this. It's just
As much as I want to.
you're wasting my time, and on top of the fact that I also have a deadline that can't be moved. So, um, yeah, that's a good thing that I don't that I'm hourly, I guess. Also, I guess we full like overtime is not completely approved, so we're not really supposed to do that. So if stuff runs over, it's like, oh well,
Deal with it tomorrow.
I'll deal with it tomorrow. Like, I don't know what you want me to do about it. There was so many times on the old website where things were done so last minute, and I would get stuck having to work late because it's like, well, this has to go tomorrow, and it's 5 o'clock, and now you're telling me I need to do like 4 hours of work.
Thanks, guys.
And you're still saying like, hey, I know we should, all this work needs to be done. It's like, well, why didn't you tell me sooner? Oh well, we lost track of it and blah blah blah. And
Well, see, funny thing, what happened was
but can you still have it done by tomorrow? It's like, I guess now I'm spending my night doing this. um yeah. Found out, I heard from the grapevine that certain people um don't use spreadsheets to keep track of things like they should. Well,
shocker.
not that they should. It's more of like a common sense thing. They should.
The
It's not.
pipeline.
It's like okay, you have um when you have cars that guys got to work on, you have to keep track of who's working on what, how long it's going to take them, if they're working on it, if they're done. You keep track of that, right? You keep track of like the customers you
But
have to call,
see,
right?
I'm old school, so I have a stack. I have like a little paper organizer, and I keep all the active stuff that I need to know what's going on throughout the day on the bottom pile.
Yeah.
Anything that I know gets set to the side, I put it up in my folder so I could just forget about it for later.
Yeah, but you keep track of it. That's
Yeah,
that's the key. You have a list somewhere
I'm
with
supposed to. Yes.
with
Do I always? Never.
no, but you have a list of like these are active things and these aren't.
Yes.
There's apparently some people that don't do that and they expect us to keep track of it for them. And I'm like, how do you do that job without doing really one of the most important parts, which is keeping track of things. um, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know how you do that. How you just don't keep track of stuff. I don't have it written down anywhere. You don't have a list somewhere of like what's active, what's inactive, what's pending this. Like even I have a list of stuff. Hey, this is what I'm working on. Here's the list of active things I'm working on. Here's a list of completed stuff I did. And then the active stuff, it's like what environment is it in? Am I working on it currently, or is it already in, QA or staging or production, you know? That way, if someone asks me about something, I can go back and look at my list and say, oh, that already went to staging. That already went to whatever. Or no, I'm still working on that one and I'm juggling this one and that one. But apparently, there's some people uh, that don't have that. And then I wonder, how do you know what you're doing? Like, how do you know what your stuff is if you don't write it down
That's a
somewhere?
little sketchy.
So I'm like, well, that kind of explains a lot of just um, chaos that happens.
Mm-hmm.
That explains why everyone's asking these odd questions to things they should have answers to, but okay.
So just hear me out. Just say somebody forgot about this. How long would it take you to get it done?
Yeah. And then you say, well, it take this long. Well, can you do it sooner? No.
So hear me out. How about you only have 20 minutes?
How about no? See, before on the old website, that would happen, and then we would have to come through for them. Now we kind of, because the process takes longer and there's more people involved, um, and the developers aren't doing everything themselves, we can just say no to things a little more. Not to everything, not to everything I would like to say no to, but we can say no. You want that done? We don't have time. It can be done for next month's sprint. And
You know?
just it would just have to be done the next one. Like we can't do it. So luckily I haven't had to deal with a lot of like last minute just working, burning the midnight oil, trying to get things done that shouldn't be done in that short amount of time. Um, some of the stuff I've pulled out of my ass though on those tight timelines is incredible. I once once this one developer that didn't work with us for that long, maybe a few months, was terrible at their job. And they were given this task of making this web page, and they took them like a month, I think. It's like 3 or 4 weeks it took them to make this, right? Turned out they copied a bunch. Okay, copying in development, like you're not supposed to copy like another company's code or anything, or stuff like that. But you copy stuff from other things you wrote. You just reuse stuff.
Yeah.
So if you write something that's like a navigation, right? And it has drop downs or whatever, you don't rewrite it from scratch. A lot of times you just copy it and change certain things so it applies to another page or it applies to a different style or whatever, a different look. But developers reuse a lot of their code, and this person had the problem is that when you reuse code, you have to know what you need to change so that way it doesn't conflict with the code that you're copying, because that code still needs to exist. Well, what he did was he copied it outright and didn't change anything.
Oh Jesus.
So because the way code is at least in web development, a lot of it's name related. So you have to name everything, right? Every container has a name. Everything has like a name and styles associated with the name. Well, if you don't change the name, but you change the styles, that name is going to reference the styles and whatever you changed it to. So if you have a box, right, and you call it blue, and you make the color blue. Well, if you make another box and also color blue, it's going to use the same color blue that the first box is using, even if it's on different pages. So that's what he did. And so when someone changed the color, like let's say someone changed the color of blue from like light blue to navy blue, both boxes are now navy blue. And so he should have changed it to like, blue 2 or blue something, right? So that way it's different. He didn't do that. Anyways, he spent like 3 weeks on this page. Turned out I had to make a change to it. So I go and I go open the page and it's completely broken. Like just utterly broken. And I'm like, I can't make the one change that they wanted me to make on this page because it's completely broken. There's stuff all missed out alignment. There's stuff missing. There's stuff that's like weird sizes. Fonts are all over the place. Text is missing. Like it's just broken. And I told my manager, I'm like, I can't do that. They're asking for this, has to go tonight. And it's like 4:30, I think. And it had to go like that day. And I'm like, I can't turn the, I can't make the, it would take me literally 1 minute to make the change they asked for. But since everything on the page is broken, I can't do that. So it took me 1 hour and I basically deleted everything and rewrote the entire page from scratch, and it took me an hour to do it. And it took him like 3
Oh,
weeks.
thank you.
And I'm like, there, now it's not gonna break. And it works and looks better than what he originally did.
Now it's temporarily fixed. Have a nice day.
And it took
I'm
me an
done.
hour. And so like stuff like that where I'm like, okay, I'm glad I can do that. I'm glad I can take a pile of crap and make something out of it in an hour. That's great, but I hate having to do that. So I'd rather not do that. That just sucks.
So that's why you get paid the big bucks, because you can do it the last minute.
Yeah, except I was the most underpaid person at the time. Heck, even that guy made more than me.
So it's a job of copy and paste. All right, now I'll come work for you now.
There's a lot of copy and paste, to be honest.
I'll just come be a project manager, get everything organized properly.
That would be more helpful to me. You being able to do that. To my manager's pretty good. I mean, I don't know how that dude is able to memorize as much as he does in his head. Like he just knows the status of things. He knows like different projects. And I'm like, I don't know how he just remembers like all of these conversations and emails that he has and actually knows, like he does keep a lot of notes and stuff, but like he just remember things. I'm like, I don't remember that, but that was like 6 months ago. And he remembers that there was some question about this and some problem and who to talk to, who had the solution to it. Like, I don't know how he keeps track of that. So he does a really good job.
Easy. Like I have customers, I couldn't tell you what they look like. I couldn't tell you what their name is. But as soon as I figure out what car it is, I can tell you every little detail about their car and what happened and what it went about. And they look at me like I'm weird. I'm like,
yeah, no, that's,
I know cars. I don't know people. So
that's what he does. He'll he might forget someone's name, but he'll remember some obscure project that was like a year ago and what happened.
And that one rare fix that everyone needs to know about.
And so I don't know how he remembers all of it, but there's other like people from other companies that we have to work with that could use someone like you to just run things, because apparently they can't. And it's frustrating.
But one thing I've learned from the management field, it's not what you know, it's how you know it, and just being there.
Yeah.
You can't, like, you can be book smart about everything, but that doesn't help you in real world situations.
No.
When it comes to project management, your biggest thing is time constraints. So you need to know who on your team can do what, how quickly they can get it done, and realistically what's going on with it.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of the work now doesn't have a lot of the work now is that the time constraints are honestly determined by us, the developers, which is great because we can say, hey, what we do regularly now, which we didn't used to do, is they would say, hey, we have this project. They'll explain to us the project, and they'll say, okay, talks amongst yourselves and figure out how long it would take. And so we go over it, me and the other developers, and we say, okay, this will take a day. This will take 2 days. This will take, 4 days. This will take, 2 weeks, this project or whatever. And we actually are pretty good at getting pretty close to how long it would actually take for us to do it. And then my manager will send that back, and then they review it, and then what they try to do is schedule it in. They try to, based on the timings of all the different projects, they try to see like, okay, which projects can we put in this month? Which projects can we put in that month? So the problem is it shouldn't be that bad because we know how long it'll take, and we know like what other projects we have to go along with it. So like if this project is a full 5 days of work, and this project is 2 days of work for a different developer, then one developer can spend 5 days on this, another developer can spend 2 days on this, 1 day on this, 1 day on this, and like you can figure out how to stack it. The problem is that we don't. It doesn't always it doesn't always go that smoothly, of course. So you end up sometimes, occasionally, it comes from our end where we run into a problem that we didn't expect, and now we have to work around it. But it doesn't usually take that much extra time. Worst case scenario, it'll take like a day or something, or a few hours. But the biggest issues we have is a lot of the projects we'll give a time for, but it hasn't been fully. The project itself has not been fully like planned out. So we're like, okay, based on what you told us, it'll take 3 days. But when it comes down to us actually working on it, we'll be done in like 2 days, but then we'll spend 3 days waiting for a response, asking questions for this, getting an answer back. Then it takes longer now. And it's like, well, if what we originally looked at was all there was, yeah, we would have been done in 3 days. But because you've added things on that weren't there originally, it's going to take us longer. And so things just get dragged out, and it sucks that we try to like work our best at getting the time down and getting it done efficiently and quickly, and then we have to like constantly revisit things because things need to be changed, things need to be fixed, things need to be altered. It's like we could have done this, right the first time, but now we're going back 3 or 4 times. So I don't know. It'd just be nice if some other departments were a little more on top of their project management
Shenanigans.
Yeah, I know you've dealt with that. you've had people that are like unorganized, and you're like, why is this taking twice as long as it should? It shouldn't.
Don't get me started on some of my texts. There's some that I can write up the car and be like, hey, the customer needs to be out of here in 45 minutes. An hour and a half goes by. Oh, yeah, I haven't looked at the car yet. Why not? I was putting air in the tires over there. Bro, I'll come back here. Just give me your scan tool. I'll do it myself.
God, yeah, no, yeah, yep. And you're like, really? Thanks.
Thanks for nothing there.
Thanks
homie.
for nothing. Just eating my time away, aren't we?
I'm just gonna bring the customer back here so she can see that you don't think she's important enough. Thanks.
What happens when, I mean, I guess in your predicament you kind of just have to when the customer thinks they've been wronged, you kind of just have to eat it, like, right?
It's all in your delivery. I hate using this tactic, but it's the spin. It's all in how you spin it. So there's times where we could 100% be in the wrong, and at that point, you either swallow your pride and you tell your customer, "Hey, here's what happened. Right now, I got to eat it because I'm in the wrong. Here's what we're doing to rectify it. What can I do to help you?" Other times, "Hey, I understand. Here's the situation you thought was going to happen. Here's the reality of the fact is, how do you want to proceed forward? Because you want something that's unrealistic, that's not going to happen. So what can we do to be friends at the end of the day?" And if you don't
Yeah.
like it, the one benefit we have is we are big enough to where we are our own competition. My closest competition is 25 minutes away, and nobody wants to go to them, which leaves the next dealership an hour drive south.
Jeez.
So realistically, I know nobody's gonna want to drive an hour because that dealership is, we go back and forth with them on the top, I would say between top 3 and top 4 dealerships in our district.
Yeah.
So they're just as busy as we are. If you don't like my 4-hour wait time, you're not going to like their 6-hour wait time.
And you
If
have to
I don't
drive an hour to
have
get there.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to, we get into a weird situation, but at the end of the day, you need your car done at the dealer so we can either be friends and try to get through it
Yeah.
together, or you're more than welcome to try my competition because I know what they have to offer and I know we're going to blow them out of the water.
True.
But I have to say that in a nice way.
But if somebody, like, if one of your techs or something just messes up or drags their feet, like, there's not much you could do to like you take the yelling and the blame for it, not
Yeah.
that person, because you're the face. You're the one who has to talk to the customer, and you can't tell them like, "Hey, yeah, that guy screwed up."
I take the initial heat, and then when they get super crazy, I introduce them to my boss, and he already knows what's going on by that time, anyways.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of play it amongst ourselves where, okay, hey, at the end of the day, most of our customers, at least in our industry, they just want somebody to complain to. They want somebody to listen to them. They
Yeah.
want somebody to say, "Hey, I understand your frustration. I'm a car owner too, believe it or not. I have a car and it does break down and it is frustrating. I know how this goes." And then you kind of break down the barrier and you just kind of shift gears back and forth. 9 out of 10 times, people are going to be really cool about it.
Yeah.
That 1 out of 10 people, it doesn't matter what you do. You could give them everything for free and they're going to be like, I waited 25 minutes and they changed out my engine for free. That's ridiculous. Like, you can't win
Yeah.
on certain
No.
people.
Yeah.
Or they ran out of coffee and so I'm going to give them a 1 star because they didn't have decaf. And it's like,
Yeah.
I had one customer complain. He failed me on a survey because when we washed his car, we didn't dry off his windshield quick enough and water spots were on his windshield. That's just unacceptable. So he gave me a failed survey for a water spot. Nothing to complain about time frame, no complaint about the work, no complaint about the washing the car, complained because we didn't dry his windshield. And it was like, okay.
To his liking. Yeah.
And then I had one lady complain about our prices being too high at the dealer. She had warranty work. She didn't pay for anything. It was free, but our prices were too high. I was like, okay.
It's like, yeah, it didn't cost you anything though.
So we got a failed survey because our prices are too high for nothing that you paid for.
Yeah.
Got it.
No, there's some people that just like to complain, not because they expect or even can fathom anything being actually correct. They'll find something wrong. Luckily, I don't work with customers anymore because I ran out of that patience a long time ago. I just do not have the type of patience and personality to be like, yeah, I'll deal with your nonsense, because I need this job.
At first, it was rough, and now I'm just kind of I'm back into the groove now because I keep realizing I'm not the boss anymore. I don't have to sit here and deal with it. I have somebody that I can say, "Here's my boss. Come talk to him." I'm
Yeah.
not the person that they get brought to anymore. So I'm like, okay, fine, here.
Yeah, true. They want to
I'm
speak to someone higher than you. Like, okay.
I'm just a little man on the totem pole here. I side with you.
Yeah.
And my boss taught me a fun little. I don't know why this works, but at the end of the day, when people want to argue about pricing, and I tell them, hey, it's not covered under warranty, the new line I use is, I would rather bill Volkswagen. They have way more money than you or I do. Probably everyone in this town combined 3 times over. I
Yeah.
don't want your money, but at the end of the day, if they're going to pay me to do work, they want to know why. And if they can't justify why they're paying me for it, that's where they say this is not a warranty related item. And all of a sudden the customer goes, oh, okay, yeah, I understand that. And it's like,
Yeah, because what a lot of people kind
you
of
drove your
fail.
car physically 70 miles an hour into a pothole. That's not a warranty fault now that your car is broken.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people also forget the fact that you're not making it's not your company. You're not
Yeah.
making the setting the prices. You're not saying what's under warranty, what's not. Yeah, you're the messenger. You're telling them that, but you're not making extra money like the way a Volkswagen makes money off of, repairs and stuff or selling cars or whatever. It's not your business. You make what you make, but you really have like no skin in the game besides
I'm pretty much
staying
just the
employed.
vessel
you're,
here.
you're just a vessel, and that was the same for me when I worked at like customer facing jobs. It's like, look, I don't set the prices. Yeah, sure, you think that's too much? Okay, I don't know what to do about that. That's not I didn't choose that number. And yelling at me is not gonna make me be able to fix that because I don't have control over that thing. It's just out of my hands. So if you want to yell at me, okay, but it's nothing I do to help you. Like, it is what it is. And I feel like sometimes people just want to be mad at somebody because they're frustrated, and sometimes people think that like you care. Like I remember when I worked at Mervin's a long time ago, which is a company that doesn't exist anymore. Um, the company had gone bankrupt, and so a bankruptcy company took over. And the what a bankruptcy company does, they just sell everything. Every time you see those like everything must go signs and 90% off and it's just a bankruptcy company comes in, says how much we got this. Basically, we bought this business at a steep discount because they're broke, and we're gonna sell everything that's not bolted down. And sometimes we're gonna sell the things that are bolted down. We're just gonna unbolt them. And that's what they were doing. What they do is when they buy it and they take over, they jack everything up to full price, and then they start like 10% off, and then like every week or so they drop it like 15% off. Everything is now 20% off. Everything is now 25% off. And they just keep going, going, going until they can sell everything, even like the furniture in the store, like the shelves, and they'll sell everything. And it was early on where the prices were like full price, but everything was like 5 or 10% off. And this old woman comes in and she's like, why are these so expensive? I was just in here not that long ago and they were way cheaper than that. Why are your guys' prices? I'm like, it's owned by a bankruptcy company and this is what they set the prices to. Well, I've been a customer for 55 years and I'm going to write to your I'm going to write to like your headquarters and what's your name, and I'm going to tell them that the price, that you said that the prices are too high, blah blah blah. And I'm thinking, okay, you could go ahead and do that. And I gave her my name, and she's like, I'm gonna write a letter, blah blah. She walked off, and I thought, that's funny. Everyone at corporate headquarters walked out of the office like a week ago.
Good luck with that.
I'm like,
You let me know how
I'm
that
thinking
works out.
there's no one there. It's an empty building. I'm like, so she could go ahead and write a letter. I don't care. I'm going to be let go in the next couple months. They already told me that. I'm like, so what do I care? It's not my company. Um, it's like, what am I going to do? Like, feel ashamed that my, you know, company, we're like a family. It's like I worked there for a total of 6 months. It was my first job out of high school, and like, actually, I think I got it just before I finished high school. And I'm thinking like, what? I'm like, they're gonna let me go in December at the end of the month. and there's literally no one at headquarters. The managers told us, they had us all gather around and said, yeah, so there was a walkout at the headquarters at whatever state the headquarters were at. They're like, yeah, everyone just got up and left because they weren't going to get they weren't going to get their like bonuses or their pensions or something. So everyone just left.
They just said, "See ya, I'm
They're
out."
like the highest people of authority are the store managers right now in the whole company. Every store manager, like the management in each individual store, had like control over their store, but that was it. They weren't even sure how we were going to get paid because there's literally no one there to do payroll. um, and
That's
so
crazy.
yeah, and so I'm like, okay, this lady's upset that yes, the prices have gone up because a bankruptcy company took over, but her complaining to me and saying like that because she's a loyal customer, she doesn't deserve that treatment. It's like, yeah, I can kind of agree, but at the same time, I have no control over it, and you threatening me to like get me fired because of something that I don't have control over, like why? Like, why are you going to do that? Obviously I wasn't bothered by it, but it's still, I'm like, that's kind of a mean thing to do to somebody who makes minimum wage. um, to threaten to write them to the headquarters to get them in trouble for prices that headquarters sets. Um, yeah, so I'm just like, okay, sure, makes you feel better. I don't know. I got so many stories from working customer service. I could probably do a whole episode on just that,
We should.
on just the different wacky stuff. I mean, there was a time I quit Subway and I told the customer to fuck off. On their way out the door, the last customer I had to serve because he was a jerk. That was great. But
Well played, sleep.
I finished my drinks. It's been about an hour. We'll see if there's audio, like halfway through this. Even if there's not, honestly, I think I'm just gonna upload it and be like, yeah, whatever.
Just upload it, and we'll make everyone else think they have an issue.
Yeah, we've had like one view on the last video, anyways. And I doubt anyone noticed that we were gone last week. And maybe next week we'll get more people. Who knows?
I agree. Well, I'm gonna try to force myself to get into more geotaggings and learning all that nonsense. Now that I actually get out of work early now, and I have a boss who's a little bit more flexible with schedules.
Yeah, I'll it's Wednesday, so I'll probably upload this, do all that tomorrow, upload, do thumbnail, all that stuff. And well, thank you guys for watching.
Thank you, 5 people.
If you're watching.
Or listening.
Or listening.
Because we do have our listeners out there.
Because yeah, maybe you like to listen in the background while you clean or drive to work. Who knows?
Maybe we just have those faces built for radio and not for video.
I probably. I only did video because it was easier. It actually took less effort than audio. But anyways, thank you. I guess I should say the whole YouTube like and subscribe because it means that it's worth doing. I mean, honestly, we do this whether anyone watches or not because this is just interesting and fun for us. But hey, if people like it, that's great. Then it means we got to come up with better content. Well, I guess goodbye.